I'm going to decide to move this camera in a little bit, or phone in a bit, because there's a lot of shots of the back of my head. So see if this helps. I don't. I need to start looking at them. Don't I? You've been watching the video. So we've got a new project this month. This month turns out to be a 5-week month. So what I might do is perhaps make the last, well, one of the requests we had earlier on was to do a little bit of printmaking. Printmaking. Yeah. So I know 1 or 2 people are interested in some of the groups. I don't know if anybody's interested in this group, but I'll perhaps make, if I can get all my equipment together by the last week, I'll make that printmaking. Liner cutting, yeah. So I'll see how that fare. If not, if I don't get it together, it'll be a little bit further on. I thought with this particular project, I didn't do much in the way of acrylics last month or pastels. I'll perhaps use some of those. But really, you're very welcome to use whatever mediums you'd like to use. So if you're a watercolourist or an oil painter, go with that. I'm going to make this first session drawing skills. So particularly looking at boats and drawing boats, because that's quite often a feature in seascapes, but if there's other things you'd like me to cover, I'm quite happy to do that. So any requests, let me know, have a little think as you're working away. So I picked out a few photographs. These are all boats from Lee, and in terms of the resources that I've got quite a lot of photos. Most of mine are fairly local, so there's quite a lot of photos there in different categories. So if you want to use any of those, please feel free to do so. But I've got given some materials and a couple of books, so there go. So if you'd like any of those, there's a couple of books, a frame, and a few bits that got donated. But please help yourself. They need to go today, and I'm going to, get got rid of or change a shot otherwise. Right, okay, so I thought I'd start with what I think of as being the easiest sort of. If you're going to draw a boat, I think these are probably the easier ones to go for. And although they look quite complicated in a sense, you've got a lot of rigging and stuff like that, they're quite straightforward views. This one's sort of like a side-on view, this one is a face-on view. So to me that makes that a little bit easier. Something like that, although it's a simpler boat, I think is more of a challenge in terms of drawing the shapes and the curves. So I thought I'd start with these 2. So the way I would go about drawing, say, something like this is, I think, well, I probably want to draw it somewhere between here and here. So that's my roughing out kind of bit, just getting a sense of where it's going to be on the page, roughly. So if you're drawing in pencil, if you're doing watercolours, this would be just drawing lightly. If you want to use oils, it could be a paintbrush or pastels. It can be a pastel or acrylics pastels. Once I'm there, so that could be the cabin. I quite often start perhaps from the cabin and work my way up and down and out. So I tend to start somewhere in the middle. I've done quite a lot of drawing using pens and lines. So with drawing with pens, you need to be quite decisive. You need to decide exactly where the line's going to go. So I might start with something like that window there. So let's start with that one. So that's what that one. And then there's a bit of a gap to the next one. And I can pop that one in. And I'm looking at how wide it is, how deep it is. The gap between it, which I made slightly too wide to be honest, but just got to go with it now. There's a little bit of the inside shape there, and then another window here. It's coming across to here. Let's correct that line, and a little bit of shadow inside there. And then the last one takes me to there. And then that kind of gives me the width of the cabin then. So I can see that it's just a little bit more, and that's the side of the cabin. So I've started pretty much where I intended to start, and just come in slightly from where I intended. So I was thinking I'd perhaps end there, but I've ended there. That's fine, there's plenty of room. Then there's a line there that marks the changing colour, and then the cabin roof is about there. So it's really seeing one shape, then the next shape, and just gradually, almost like scanning that little bit. And then I can think, well, how far down is it from here to the front of the hull, I think you call that. And then at the back, how far? Probably about there. So that would give me the start of the hull. Actually, I'll carry on with the cabin roof. That'll come across here. Comes along a bit. Like that. And then I can have a look at how far from here to here. What I could do is just use my pencil and just measure that distance on the photograph. And because we're working on a photo, it's easy to do this. So that's how wide it is. So rather than kind of using, actually measuring it with the ruler, you could then just compare that. And that takes me to about that third window. So it's like comparative measuring. So I'll go to the third window, and then that gives me how far to get to the front. And again, I'm not far out, just slightly to the left of my original mark. So plenty of room to manoeuvre, so I can carry that on to the front, slightly angle, that's something like that. That comes down to there. That dips down a little bit there. And then I can carry the hull on. I might want to draw some more of this structure here. So I'll perhaps start midline, but not end it. So we've got this bit of whatever that is. So there's a gap, and then that goes up there. I could maybe compare that distance with that distance. Just a little bit less than that, so 1 and a bit. So I think I'll end that about there. And then these will come up to here. I can start putting these little bits of radar in. But if I wanted to check all these proportions here, I'd just go back to where I started and just compare that with something up here. So if you just decide on something as a reference, like maybe the width of that or some of these windows, and then just keep comparing. That's a good way of keeping everything in proportion. So looking at the whole length, let's see how many times that fits in. 1, 2, 3. 3 and a tiny bit. So I need 3 and a tiny bit. 1, 2, 3. And it's actually come out quite a bit longer than I thought it would. But again, I've still got room on the page, so that's fine. So if I was to carry that one as a drawing, I could then, just keep going and gradually work my way across. So that's a nice side-on view. Something like this one, it'd be exactly the same. I won't spend too much time on this, but instead of starting here, you perhaps start with the middle or the cabin here. You perhaps, perhaps start with some windows here, and then maybe go up a bit. Have a look at where that lines up. That's about there. How much distance to there? That's about there. Kind of get this shape of the hull. I'm seeing more this side than I'm that side, so I need to just see how far that comes across. Perhaps about there. On this side, it's difficult to tell because we've got all those tyres, but I think checking that against that, it's about 2 windows, so it's probably going to end about there. So it's starting somewhere and just working your way out and relating out. The other one I want to show you is going about something like that with a lot of interesting curves. Okay, so although it's a simpler structure, sometimes it can be more of a challenge. You've got more angles and more different curves to draw there. So let's just turn the page over, or let's get on the page. It's easier. Right, so I just popped these. I wondered if it would help to just pop that there in a minute. The way I tend to draw these sorts of bows is to try and have a look at the middle of the bow through here. So try and get a sense of what angle is between the front and the back. So the middle of the back and the middle of the front. So if I get a ruler or some sort of straight edge and just put if I put that there, Right, let's tell you what, I'm going to hang that, put that there. So there's a tiny bit of an angle, there's not much, but it's like 1 or 2 degrees it's going down between the front and the back. And what I can actually do is just mark that outside the page and take the photo away. Then I know I've definitely got the right angle then. I haven't thought that before, but I just accidentally did that today. So using just something light, I don't want this to be big heavy lines that are going to stay in the drawing. So that's the angle that I'm working with. And oh, how do we start now? I think perhaps start from the front. So I'm thinking I'm going to go front to back. Something like that angle at the back. Again, I could just sight that like that. Maybe just try and move that over. I don't know if it's going to come out here or here, but that should be the right sort of angle. Now, what you'll find, if you're drawing this kind of bow where you're seeing it almost like 3/4 on. You're seeing a bit at the front, a little bit at the back, a bit at the top. You're seeing all sorts of, almost like 3 sides there. You'll find that this curve is a lot deeper than this one. This, although we know that's curved, it almost appears straight. So again, if I put the straight edge against there, it's almost like a straight line. So we know that boat is symmetrical, but how it appears is very different. Yeah. So I'm thinking, to start here, go for a darker colour so you can see what I'm doing. So that's the front. So I'm just thinking, and I'm thinking I need to end up about here, I think. So I'm guessing, I suppose what I could do is measure, yeah, I'll just guess it like that. So that's going to be just heading towards here. There's an almost straight line. So I hope I've got that right. I'm not sure if I have, but I think that's what I'm seeing. What you can do is, put a straight edge against the top of that and just see how much space is seen. So if I do that, it's very hard to see from where you are. Actually, I'll take it out of plastic. That'll make it easier to see now. So when I put a straight edge against that, it almost appears straight up to about there when it just curves in a little bit. So I'm going to do this freehand, but that bit's fairly straight, and it just turns in a little bit there. And then on this side, this is kind of dipping down, so we've got more of an arc here. So just doing this by eye. I think about there seems to be the widest bit. So somewhere about here, and then this will then curve upwards from there. So I think that's the sort of shape I'm seeing. Another thing you can do, I've got, if you've got anything like a viewfinder, again, sometimes things like that can be quite good to just compare it against a horizontal and a vertical. So if that helps you to see the curves, so I guess if I do that, actually that bit there is where it starts to then turn up again. So again, anything that you can use just to get you to see what the nature of that particular curve. Any little devices. So I don't think I'm too far out because that seems to be the lowest point. And then from there, it should then start to get a little bit more straightforward. We've got this bit of rope, whatever that is, and then this angle should be fairly similar to that one. Maybe I think that one will be shallower. This one will be a tiny bit steeper. So those of you that understand things like the perspective and vanishing points. So you probably have a vanishing point actually up here on the horizon would be the vanishing point. So if you carry that line up to there, carry that one up to there, this should roughly meet. So that'll be a little bit steeper than that one. And that's a curve there. That's the inside of that. Then just trace the shape of that around. Trace that again for that bit. Any of these little divisions inside, the little bits that people sit on. I think that bit is probably where the engine is. Again, these angles will all go to a vanishing point up here somewhere, and then follow that shape. Drawing the hull, that will just, again, you can just start your angle there, or at the back, going that way. Check your distance here against something. I think that, once you get down here, the keel will be fairly straight, but the actual curve of the boat, probably need a photo that where you can see a bit more definition in the shadow there. It'll be something like that. Maybe that'll be a little bit lower. That looks a bit awkward, doesn't it? Yeah, I think the keel comes down further. And then any little bits of hardware. But that's how I would tend to go about drawing a shape like that. And it's good practice to get yourself into looking for shapes and trying to find ways of comparing one shape to another. Okay, any questions? Okay, right.